Liren is white in game one. So far he was more comfortable on the clock. 5 minutes, 3 seconds increment only. So first of all, much less the base time, the initial time you get. And then if you go down to like few seconds, it's much harder to keep playing, you know, on the seconds.
Liren doesn't go for one c4 and the English opening, but instead chooses just g3 setup and d4.
And he reaches his beloved Catalan. a6, a4, bishop d7, so very, very quickly. And bishop f4, so 2 lines here, bishop f4 or bishop g5. D goes for bishop f4, queen c1 line. Radjabov seemingly is very well prepared, as well as Liren is. I mean, both playing very quickly.
Definitely, all moves blitzed out, literally blitzed out. This is still a theoretical position.
And and Radjabov is the one who had to speed up, we said, and he did. Knight developed to c3, while sometimes in the Catalan you have knight's development on d2, but in this case it would lead to some damage to white's pawn structure after black takes on f4. And this is a very well-known motif, exchanging the light square bishop on f3 to play c6, and to get somewhat passive but very, very solid position.
Indeed, this is black building up a grip on the light squares with this pawn structure a6, b7, c6, and on e6 too. The knight can come to d5 later. Solid, but it usually leads to comfortable positions for white, but not easy to get more than a slight edge.
Right, and the idea for that could be that Radjabov is looking for the kind of a simplistic position to play, so not to spend too much time figuring out which piece belongs to which square. Well, he still will have to do it at some point, because so far, even with a couple of minor pieces being exchanged, his position is somewhat awkward. Not enough space, it seems. Yeah, knight d5 could be the way to play it. So getting the d5 square for the knight, but the fact that white has already played a5.
e5, that's very direct.
Played. Okay, but queen e3 not allowing the immediate simplification. And after rook e8, perhaps d4, d5 will be played. That's a typical way they play in such positions. Rook to e8, it's okay. Now I believe the swap on e5 doesn't lead anywhere for white, because, well, he's not able to apply enough pressure on black's queen side. So d5, I'm looking at d5, and then in case of e4, white seemingly has intermediate capture on c6. If this works, then should be quite a decent position for white. Probably better. And by the speed Liren went for this queen e3, he either knew the motif or the exact position. Because after e5, your first reaction, you can see the capture, right? And at least hesitate for the few seconds. And the move queen e3, if you do not know this move in advance, you probably spend some time before you play it.
And now d5, exactly the idea that you mentioned. So white is trading the d pawn for the c pawn, opening up the d file and claiming that the e5 pawn can be problematic in the future. e4 immediately.
Okay. So now, what's all about if white captures on c6? Can he do it? Takes on c6, takes on f3, white captures on d7. Well, might be one very, very complex position, because otherwise, if Liren goes back to g2, I believe it. Yeah, now we'll see the board. And yeah, if bishop g2 played, then black trades everything on d5, goes knight f6. I believe that these are known positions, and somehow black is supposed to hold it. There is also d6, but it is risky, in fact, that far advanced passed pawn might be as well very, very weak. So he ended up playing bishop g2 immediately. Okay. Black seemingly has no other choice but to take on d5. Well, c5 is technically possible, but it's not clear whose structure will be worse in this case, right? Now, Radjabov decides to take, yes. Takes, rook takes, and knight to f6. Yeah. Then you trade on d8, typically. Well, Liren is thinking, though.
Radjabov has managed to speed up. It's roughly equal the time management.
Well, so now using the fact that the pawn on e4 is attacked twice, white is in no fear of knight g4 for a time being, right? Knight g4 will be answered with queen takes e4, so he can spend time on a move like rook c1, or take care of this knight g4 potential maneuver, yes, precisely to play h3 to cover this square. And who knows, maybe in some positions g3, g4 could become an idea. So push the pawn forward, make sure that black will have difficulties defending e4. So the only factor here, well, maybe not the only factor, but an important factor here to evaluate the position, if this e4 pawn, the far advanced pawn, if it actually stays protected, and then it's good for, basically secures extra space for black, it's good for black. Or Liren will prove that the pawn itself is overextended, and then, you know, will try to win it somehow.
He protects
b3,
his b pawn by pushing it to b3.
So b3 and rook a4 maybe is an idea.
It is certainly an idea to bring the rooks from a4 toward the center, and also put pressure on the e4 pawn with rook a4.
Yeah, it has to be done with care though, because an immediate rook a4 runs into a check on the first rank, and then, so king h2 he does first. King to h2 to stop those ideas with a check on the first rank. Well, quite a solid game. Yeah, interestingly, the sharpest so far was the game with longest time control, game 1 of today's tiebreak, and then when they got into shorter time control was much more solid.
Just to mention that we are looking at the game through the camera angle, because they play so quick that our board wouldn't catch up with the moves as quickly as they appear, so we want to make sure that you guys are seeing the exact position. For Blitz games, we tend to use the camera mainly.
Yeah, but then in
After
between
the game
of the
is
games,
over, we will analyze it on the 2D board as well.
Okay, so some pressure on Radjabov, and it has to be said that in this time control, when it gets to Blitz, you don't really care that much. As a spectator, you shouldn't be complaining, okay, those guys have an equal position, because it is still possible to change any time, right? I mean, one gets low on time, starts to be nervous, plays a couple of, you know, suspicious moves, and then all of a sudden, once again, the other side gets chances. So Radjabov is thinking he's got a move like queen d4, for instance, trying to simplify, get rid of the queens. Rook d5, he's going after this a5 pawn.
He is, that's not about to simplify, he wants to grab the pawn on a5. Well, if he takes twice on a5, the e4 pawn will also be captured.
Yeah, right. So basically, he's stating that he's not afraid of rook a4, because still queen e1, and the moment white captures the pawn on e4, he'll have rook d1 with some threats, with actually very serious threats to this white king on h2. So in a pleasant situation for Liren, while queen f4, so basically the pawn on a5 can be taken. In this case, I suspect Liren is planning to give a check on b8, then take the pawn on b7, hence queen f4, looking at the b8 square. Black can play now. How about b3 pawn? Can black take on b3? It is a possible move, queen b3, but then at least white can capture the pawn on e4 once again.
Radjabov is going down on time. It's only a minute and a few seconds left for Timur.
Not for the first time in this match, right?
But now it's only a 3-second increment, so it's even more dangerous here.
Yeah, right. But, well, perhaps he feels like there is a chance in this position. A chance not only to equalize, but to try to play for a win. Rook takes a5. Let's see. I don't quite see it as a chance to play for a win if white trades, gives a check, takes on b7. White is certainly out of risk. I'm actually not sure if black is out of risk in this case. What's the move for black after a trade, give a check, king h7, queen b7? Because f7 pawn's hanging, e4 pawn's hanging. Didn't he misplay it after rook a5? Let's see. Dean is uncomfortable 2 minutes. Of course, he can double check it and go for the for the precise line that he likes the most.
Trades on a5.
Yes, gives a check, takes on b7, and then e4 and f7 are both hanging. I don't see the way for black to save the pawn. Did Radjabov misplayed? I think the answer is yes. Queen to f5, targeting f2.
So in case of
Just
queen takes
like
f7
that.
or queen a6, he will take the f2 pawn.
In case of queen f7, he has a better move, which is knight g4, which is
I'm
knight
blundering
g4
the
check.
white queen for Mr. Ding. Queen takes f7 is therefore not really recommendable. King g1.
King g1, a6 pawn is still hanging, f7 pawn still hanging, but black has queen e6. e3. Wow.
Aggressive move.
e3, trying to soften the, the squares around the white king. Plays for an initiative, it seems. Takes on e3, queen e6 now.
So queen takes e3 is the threat, and he also protected both of his pawns.
Yeah, so f7 is protected, a6 protected, white is a pawn up, but black is getting a very comfortable square for his knight potentially. After knight d7, knight e5, black will be rock solid, it seems. After all, I like Radjabov's decision to go e3. Now it's up to Liren to prove that he's not running any risk of being worse, because, in the Blitz, knights are known to be very tricky pieces, and the combo of knight and queen as well.
Very true. So it was a positional pawn sacrifice by Radjabov.
Okay, king f2, knight d7 is an option to bring the knight to e5. He possibly is looking for the better setup. Well, g6, king g7, of course, makes sense, as always, to free the queen from, let's say, at least from protection of the pawn on f7. 20 seconds left for Timur Radjabov. He's giving a check on f5, basically hinting at the repetition unless white goes bishop f3. But in this case, he loses the h3 pawn. So queen f5 is a clever move.
Or he can play queen to f3.
Queen to f3 is possible, but then black doesn't trade the queens, of course. But yeah, queen f3 played. Black doesn't trade the queens, of course, but goes something like queen to e5, queen e6, attacking the b3 pawn again. e4. Okay, the pawn is alive, but then e4 restricts the bishop. e4 restricts the bishop. Now, if black gets the knight on e5, it might be black who is better as long, well, at least in practical terms, as long as the queens are on the board. Yes, knight to d7, knight to e5. And sometimes even an endgame, queen c3, get the knight to e5, yes.
I agree with the chat. I also wish that the light wouldn't be reflecting on Radjabov's clock, so it's not so easy to know how much time he has. He had about 10 seconds the last time I saw it.
Dean doesn't have
much either. They are about both in 10, 12 seconds, 3-second increment. Oh, hesitation, king f2.
King f2, okay. King f2, there is queen f6 check. Did he lose the game? No, king e3 has to be. Queen f6 check. No, that was king g1, sorry. That was king g1.
Almost.
Queen
now
d4. Now that's
d4.
a real mess. Now it's a real mess.
It's a minor piece endgame where white is a pawn up, but it's doubled pawns.
Knight c2. He's about to lose his b4 pawn. Bishop to c4, king g7, e6, threatening e7, so black has to take it. Has to take it, yes, bishop takes, knight takes, and then the a pawn will start running. Well, won't run very far.
And luckily the white king is getting really close. So it's equal material, and the bishop is supposed to be better when there are pawns on both flanks. At least it's really good for stopping the a-pass pawn.
But on the other hand, there'll be a lot of checks,
Yeah.
Those knights, they are dangerous animals. Knight to e7,
Protecting the
okay,
G6
well,
pawn.
and then eyeballing f5 just in case. King c4.
7 seconds left for Timur Radjabov. 6, 5, 4, 3.
Got to play a move. Is there any problem with king b5, I'm trying to guess? Not, well, king c5. What's that?
4 seconds. I'm just looking at the clock.
King b5 now. Well, he didn't want black to go king...
3 seconds for Timur Radjabov.
Oh, well, g4 makes a draw. Is that correct? What Ding is doing?
Does he want 2 seconds?
What is he doing?
He's giving up his kingside pawns, but his king is now too far.
I mean, he might lose like that. His king is far enough. g5 and then king e5. And king e4 and king e3. He actually might lose this one. He should have went g4 and make a draw, but now that I'm thinking... Yes, and king g3.
Yep.
King g3. h3 pawn is about to be lost. Bishop d7, there is knight f2.
He is losing the h4 pawn.
Yes, and well, h4 first. That's okay. h4 first. Well, Liren is actually about to lose it. e3. But knight f2, knight h3, is this an option? Does seem so.
Why not? Yeah, why not take it with the knight, indeed?
Knight takes h3. Black is winning.
Pawn up, but there's no time for either
Knight
of the players.
f4. He can play h3 now. h3 wins the game.
Yeah, how do you stop the pawn? It's only bishop c6.
c6, but then you put it on h2. And then you do what? You bring the other
knight
pawn.
to f3.
Yeah, but you have to care about the e-pawn as well. Yeah, that's tricky. That's tricky, but Radjabov seemingly has found a way. g3 now?
g3, g2.
Yeah, g3.
He's winning on the spot.
Now it's check from c8, king h4, go back. But then the king is free. So you just go with the king to surround the e-pawn. Here you go via h6, so you don't care all that much. Or king g4, that's precisely, that's the move. King g4.
Zugzwang.
Zugzwang, you move the bishop, king f5, king e5, wins the game for Timur Radjabov. That's incredible what has happened. e6, knight takes, king g2.
But now
kind of a last chance. But the problem with playing for a stalemate with the bishop is the fact that this you will never ever force black to capture the bishop.
Bishop f3, but it wasn't forced to be taken.
Knight f2, mate into knight f2. Oh well, but now the bishop can be taken.
And it's not a stalemate. Liren resigns. The first Blitz game is won by Timur Radjabov with the black pieces. What a game! Liren should have liquidated in the moment when you mentioned Evgeny that he was getting himself into unnecessary trouble. We're gonna have a look at the game. We're gonna bring up our analysis board. But congratulations to Timur Radjabov.